Jonathan Davis is an economist and wealth manager. Good evening, Jonathan.
Hi, Jonathan.
Hello. Jonathan, she trembled with sheer exasperation at matching all the numbers and had to check. Jonathan, once she'd had a cup of tea and settled down in the kitchen, our lottery winner, what would you advise her to do with £61 million?
Absolutely nothing. She should spend months thinking about it, because the temptation is to waste a half of it. Well, the old joke is, I spent a fortune on wine, women and song, and the rest of it I frittered away. So they should spend. I do hope that the lotto company, I hope that as well as, no doubt, there's financial and legal advisors and estate planners, I hope there are money counsellors.
Yes.
Because can you imagine, I mean, you've been talking about it, of course, the idea of suddenly coming into tens of millions of pounds, it would blow your mind.
And that's the thing, Jonathan. I mean, also, you've got the capacity to fall out with every member of your family and friend you've ever made in all your life. You've really got to deal with this.
What about the publicity thing? Publicity, what about that?
I have clients who have taken years to write their wills because they just know what's going to happen when husband and wife, if both of them die eventually. There's going to be strife in the family, left, right and centre.
Yes.
But eventually you have to bite the bullet and do something. So, yes, I mean, it could create havoc, not only with your own psychology, but with your immediate beneficiaries of your estate. No doubt there will be tons of people knocking on the door, could you help me out? There'll be begging letters, there'll be friends, there'll be people she met 50 years ago who will say, do you know, it's a funny thing, but I was just thinking about you.
Yeah. And tell you what, Jonathan, the temptation for me was to not tell anyone apart from my immediate family. I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? How would it get out if you crossed X for no publicity, Johnny?
Hey, you're in the media. It gets out. Nothing stays private.
Because you're going to start spending it, aren't you? And people are going to notice. Why is he wearing those, you know?
Yeah, but you've seen Goodfellas. You saw Goodfellas. What I tell you?
Well, exactly, but they can't really help, can they?
How come you were driving a 7-year-old 1.8 car? All of a sudden you're driving a Mercedes S-Class.
Don't get personal, Jonathan.
Brand new.
No, but the thing is, right, I've heard that she's given away 12 million to all the family members each. That's
Already.
a big mistake, isn't it? I mean, she's going to regret that.
Well, who knows? Who knows what the actual situation is? You say regret. The reality is, okay, so she's down to only £49 million now, or something like that. And, she could buy a fantastic boat, a couple of lovely...
No, I think she's down to 12 million. I think she's splitting it, giving 12 million to everyone, and she'll have 12 million.
Oh, really?
I mean, yeah, what are you going to do with 12 million?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, what she's doing is she's preempting all the fights. That actually could be quite clever.
Maybe, but not really. She's giving away 40 million quid like that.
Well, if she's done that literally immediately, then there may be some regret. What she should have done was waited weeks, if not months, and sought counselling, as I said right at the outset, and then performed those acts. She's down to £12 million. What's she going to do? Wherever do we know where she lives? Is it the south of England, or where is it she lives? Do we know?
I don't actually know that, no.
Okay. Well, of course, property in the south of England is going to cost 3 or 4 or 5 times as much in the north of England, Scotland and Wales. But let's say it's in the home counties. £3 million gets you a beautiful home and 3 or 4 acres.
She's from Monmouthshire. The good news is Monmouthshire.
From one of those rural parts of Wales.
You could buy Monmouthshire for that. I think that Lemsip knows Pigsold constituency.
Right. I'll tell you what, £1 million will get her a beautiful home with some privacy. where she can park her 3 or 4 home cars. No doubt she'll spend £100,000 in some fantastic mobile home, which she'll think she'll drive around Europe doing that. Let's say she just goes on a massive spending spree. Out of 12 million, let's say she spends, I don't know, £3 million. That leaves her with 9 million. Do you know what? Any decent, ethical wealth manager should quite easily be able to achieve a net of tax and charges return of 5% per annum. So what's that? £450,000 a year, net. Thank you very much. She'll be okay.
Hey, now listen, Drifter Nick, who's a Twitter mate of mine called Glasgow Guy, he showed me his lottery ticket, and he was 2 away from also winning a share of that money. And he's just tweeted me the ticket. He's still got 3,000 quid. Can't be bad. And I told him he hit the crossbar. But, he said, you don't get half a goal for hitting the crossbar. 3,000 quid. Very, very nice indeed. Well done to Glasgow Guy. Seriously, for a slightly more humble amount of money, which might settle your credit card bill and kind of put you on the straight and narrow again, what would you suggest to Glasgow Guy?
£3,000. Well,
get down the casino.
As you say, if he does have a debt on the credit card and it's high interest, then he must get rid of it. Simple as that. I mean, okay, £1,000, go on a bender, go to Ibiza for an amazing week or a weekend, sure, by all means. But, if he's not a high earner, you have to get rid of high interest debt. That's the first thing you do.
Yeah, but if he goes on the bender, he's going to forget about it for those few days.
You've asked me my advice. That's what you should do.
We used to get
a little, have a bit of fun, but also reduce his high interest debt.
Very well. Okay. But we used to get on, I used to speak to the lotto lout. He won the lottery, and he used to race stock cars around this lovely, beautiful house in Surrey.
I know.
Do you remember him? And I think he lost it all. And do you remember there was that other guy, Lee? I mean, he lost it all. A lot of people, they go a bit crazy, don't they? And it's always the wrong sort of people that win it. These people actually seem the right people to win it. There's a lot of young people who are benefiting. Normally they're either really old or they're like former real bad criminals that win and lose all their money. They spend it all.
Well, of course, the first big winner that everyone knows about, there were books about her and films. Viv Nicholson. It was in the 1960s or early 1970s. Yeah. Just think, this lady's just won over £60 million. Viv Nicholson was huge national news. Yeah. £180,000.
Yeah, that was the pull. That's the pull. I wouldn't even cash that ticket if I won that now. I mean, that's the pools. I had a mate won the pools. Well, his dad won the pools in like '87, won 400,000 and bought 10 houses in Selly Oak part of Birmingham. So that's a good thing to do, isn't it? Just put it in property and then think about it. You're not going to go wrong there.
Well, it depends. I mean, as it happens, I wouldn't take that view as it happens. It's no longer as easy an investment as it was 20 plus years ago. No, I think as it happens, I think property has had its day. However, if you win a fortune, then of course you're going to want a beautiful home. It's not about an investment, it's about living in a beautiful home, and why not?
Hey, Jonathan, just rewind 15 seconds. Property has had its day. Explain. Give me a bit more on that.
Did we say that?
It's been 100 years of safe bet in the industrial world.
That's all over, though.
Tell me, Jonathan.
Yeah, well,
why'd you say that?
It's interesting you say that because there was a huge crash in the south of England in the late 1970s, early 1980s. And developer by developer lost their shirt. And then there was the last huge crash that affected the nation was in the early 1990s. In the south of England, it lasted from 90 to 93. But in the north, in Scotland and Wales, it went on to 96. That was a huge crash. And since then, government policy and central bank policy has been to boost house prices whenever possible. The thing is, it's not quite 100 years, you say. It's a 40 to 50 year bull market, rising market. But the reality is, and this is what you don't see in the press, look at a few months ago, over 10 years until a few months ago, 7 out of 13 UK regions had experienced house price growth of no more than 2% a year. That's because there was actually a short-term crash 8 years ago in 2008. Then, of course, they slashed interest rates from 5% to 0.5, where they've been now for the last 7 years. And isn't it interesting, with practically no interest cost, borrowing at the lowest literally in history, we're not seeing 20% per annum house price rises. What we're seeing is 4 or 5%. The next time we go into recession, and actually, the way I'm looking at it, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens next year, as it happens, they won't be able to slash interest rates.
No, well, that's true.
That is scary.
The only thing, if I might add one thing to your stats, is that any 5% compound increase in a property value spread over 9.6 years means that your value of your property has exactly doubled in less than a decade.
Sure, absolutely. And of course, I mentioned 7 out of 13 regions. 6 out of 13 regions have done handsomely and basically kept on going. However, I'm not talking about the past. I'm talking about the future.
Okay.
And I reiterate, next time we have a recession, we had 3% growth in 2014, 2% growth last year. We're looking at about 1.5% this year. In other words, we are clearly slowing down. And I think when I look at China, I look at America, we could well be in recession next year. The one thing that the policymakers have done every single time there's been an economic problem in the last 40 years is slash interest rates. They can't do it. And to me, what that means is there's going to be a short-term crash, 10, 20%, but I can't see what they will do to then reboost prices. I just can't see it, because clearly from 0.5% to 0 is practically no difference at all. So it seems to me, yes, I go back on my first statement, house prices have probably had their day.
Very interesting.
But, you know, we'll see what happens.
Interesting.
Jonathan Davis, economist and wealth manager, says to the £61 million couple, take your time and then don't invest in property. So the